what I mean as far as prophetically or figuratively relating to dreams or visions. Now, another way that the Bible speaks figuratively or prophetically, even when you read the literal narrative, one of the points that Brother Shaul brings out is that we know that the law is spiritual, meaning although we read a physical narrative which is given history, there's an underlying meaning to that. Okay? So that's one point that I wanted to make. Now, in this particular case, we are reading a literal narrative. In other words, the fact that the serpent spoke means just that. The serpent spoke. But there's another point. And the second point that I want to make in reference to this. When we view humanity today are not the same as humanity in the garden. And what I mean by humanity in the garden, Adam, Hawa, Adam and Eve. We are not the same. We changed. In other words, humanity before the fall had the ability to hear and understand the animals because of their state. Humanity after the fall, and not just humanity after the fall, but the whole creation after the fall changed. Okay? That's another point that a lot of people, when they get to this particular part of the story, fail to realize. Now, what they do, they, cynics, the skeptics, or whosoever, goes against what the Bible teaches here. They compare the Bible to being a fairy tale. Now think about this. Ask yourself this question. And when I ask this question, I want everybody to do this as well. Consider every book that was ever written. Every play. Consider every television show or every movie. Consider every song. And I want everybody to just open your mind and just think about that for a moment. And this is the thing that I want everybody to consider. Everything that man has ever produced has a motivation behind it. Now, whether or not the producer of the book or the movie or the song knows what the intent is, now, that's questionable. But the fact that there is a motivation is not. So now, I ask that and I say that to basically set this up. What was the purpose for fairy tales being written in the first place? And you think about a lot of fairy tales, let me take your mind to, and I'm sure everybody who hears my voice through this broadcast have at least seen or at least heard of one Disney movie. For example, one of my favorites when I was a little younger, having kids and things, was The Lion King. So we see these animated characters, these animals who are conversating like we conversate, because it's on a movie screen, because it's a cartoon figure, it gives you the thought that this is not real, because it's not real. It's a cartoon, it's fictitious. But what it also does is generate a certain idea. Animals don't talk. But people would never think that something as simple as a fairy tale, oh, that's just for the kids. It's just written to teach a moral or whatever. But the other motivation is to shed doubt on the word. Meditate on that. Pray about it. Because what we're going to find in this scenario, how the adversary gained that power and began to reign over humanity, there's what's called the power of suggestion. So, continuing in verse 1, it says, and he said unto the woman. Now, it's teaching us that the serpent actually spoke to the woman. And the woman is about to have a conversation with the serpent, a snake. Okay? He says, yea, hath Elohim said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. Now another point to make. This is the first question that was asked in the history of humanity. Okay, the first question that was asked. Now consider the question. Yea, hath Elohim said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. Now before we go any further, we want to turn back to chapter 2 of Genesis. Starting at verse 15. We want to read a few things. So this is what the passage reads. Now we're backing up, we're backtracking for a moment, so that we can insert a thought, so that we are following the line of thinking that the scriptures have us in. So, and Yahweh Elohim took the man and put him into the garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. And Yahweh Elohim commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat. Now listen to that. Of every tree of the garden you may freely eat. But we're not finished. Verse 17 states, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. So backing up, think about the question. Of every tree of the garden you may freely, yea, hath Elohim said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. Now he didn't say that. What he said is, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat. That's what he said. So when that question was asked, now we, the reader, who is following the story, following the narrative, have to ask ourselves a question. Why did he ask that? Let's continue. Verse 2. And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. So she understood that all of these trees we were able to eat from, with the exception of one, as she continued. But of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim hath said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. Now think about this. Let's go back again to chapter 2. Now remember, her response was, we can't eat of the tree, but there's a particular tree in the midst of the garden that we're not supposed to eat of. Then she adds, and we're going to see that it was an addition, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. Now, in Genesis chapter 2 and then verse 9, it says, and out of the ground made Yahweh Elohim to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight, keep that in mind, and good for food. The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Now think about that. And I wanted to emphasize the fact that it said pleasant to the sight and good for food. Now why is that important? We're going to see as it comes up. In verse 4, it says, and the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die. Now, this was the lie. This was that lie that the adversary told. Now, what does this lie propose to do? Now, he already, from asking the question, the purpose of which was to shed doubt on the word of Yahweh Elohim. Keep that in mind. The purpose of the question was to shed doubt